Uh-oh, John, don't jump.
Good evening, everyone. It's January 14th, 2025, and this is a meeting of the Wolfeboro Budget Committee, and we're going to be going over the town budget and also the associated warrant articles. If you join me in the Pledge of Allegiance, and if Steve, if you can handle that, please.
I pledge allegiance to the flag
Of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Steve. We'll get started on the presentation. My name is John McDonald, and I'm the chairman of this year's Budget Committee. My vice chairman is Bob Tuffer. Other members are Bob Lohman, Matt Platch, Thomas Bell, Rob Mulholland, Brian Black, Harold Parker, Steve Johnson, and the selectman representative is Brian DeShays, and Linda Murray is the alternate. Okay, this next slide shows the 2024 operating budget of $33,300,799. The department heads requested for 2025 $36,409,899. The Board of Selectmen proposed sent us budget of $36,372,472, and we came down to $35,943,677. Okay, the first one we're going to talk about is the operating budget. Shall the town raise and appropriate as an operating budget, not including appropriations by special warrant articles and other appropriations voted separately, the amount set forth on the budget posted with a warrant or as amended by the vote for the first session for the purpose set forth by totaling $35,943,677. Should this article be defeated, the operating budget shall be $33,650,063, which is the same as last year's budget, operating budget. Where certain adjustments required by previous action of the town or by law, or the governing body may hold one special meeting in accordance with RSA 40:13, 10, and 16, and to take up the issue of revised operating budget only. We haven't voted on this budget yet because we want to get some input from the public, and this shows it's going to be $6.19 per 1,000 of assessed valuation. This is recommended by the Board of Selectmen on a vote of 5-0, and again, the Budget Committee hasn't voted. Okay, here's the 2025 proposed operating budget by fund. The general fund is $20,570,784. The water fund is $1,883,417. The electric fund is $11,204,722. Sewer fund is $1,849,640. Pop Whalen, $435,114 for a total of $35,943,677. And there's the graph that shows how the budget is cut up. The majority of it being the 58% being the general operating budget, 1% Pop Whalen, 5% sewer, 31% electric, and 5% water. Yes.
May I ask a question?
Yes.
Can you use the mic, please? Certainly. Just curious about the slide on page 4, the budget hearing for $33,650,063. How does that compare to the 24 operating budget of $33,300,799?
Casey, can you answer that?
How does it compare? It's about $350,000 more. We'd have to increase for stuff like the debt schedules is one of them.
Oh, okay.
We didn't have any one-time items, which we would have backed out had we had any of that. And
Okay.
that's primarily it.
So it's not increases in discretionary spending, it's things that have to be
Right, there are only a few, no discretionary spending, but New Hampshire retirement system is a mandated cost, so that would be an increase. Debt is a mandated cost, so that would be an increase. Some of the insurance, not health insurance, but like workers' comp insurance and property and liability insurance. Okay.
Okay, let's look at the next slide. This has the general fund, the water fund, electric fund, sewer fund, Pop Whalen, and it shows the change 2025 to 2024. The general fund, it's $1,808,397 for 9.64% change. Water fund 2025 was $1,883,417. Last year was $1,642,255 for a change of $241,162, which represents a 14.68% change in the water fund. Electric fund, $11,204,722 for 2025. Last year, $10,669,329 for $535,393, or 5.02% change. Sewer fund, $1,849,640 for 2025. Last year was $1,818,520 for $31,120, which is a 1.71% increase. Pop Wayland, for this year, $435,114. Last year, 2024, it was $408,308 for an increase of $26,806, or 6.57%. So again, the total proposed budget for 2025 is $35,943,677. The approved for last year was $33,300,799 for a difference of $2,642,878 for a total increase over all funds of 7.94%.
Question, Mr. Chairman?
Yes, sir.
The $33,300,799 is the default budget from last year, correct?
That is correct.
Thank you.
It's also known as the approved budget, but it is the default.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, this next slide shows the general fund budget drivers. First, up top here, it's 2025. General fund operating budget was $20,570,784. Last year was $18,782,387 for a proposed increase of $1,808,397. If you look over to the right, follow the arrow over, it'll show you where those increases are. The cable channel, they need a bunch of new equipment to continue on servicing the town as far as town meetings and events and things like that. Personal administration, $35,778. Debt service, that's an increase of $473,660. That increase is due to us, our buildings, new police and fire building, that's all kicking in this year. Is that correct, Mr. Town Manager?
That is correct.
Thank you. And then another increase is the ambulance, $501,047. Public safety building, $40,202. Streets and highway, $217,153. Abenaki Groomer, that lease is $22,000. Non-union wage adjustments for the folks that don't belong to the union, $101,433. And then we've got the third firefighter that we've put off now for, I think, for a couple of years, for $62,674. And it's my understanding, Chief, correct me, is he going to start in July? Correct. Thank you. And then the capital outlay, things we're going to buy of $116,051. So total there was $1,656,091. And then down below, you have a comparison between the 2025 proposed and the 2024 approved. Again, it shows those same changes that we just covered the previous slide. Okay, we'll get into the department budget. This particular one is the executive budget, which is set at $331,612. That's an executive increase of $98,956. or 42.5%. Town manager's total budget is $380,777 for a town manager increase of $167,334. This is due to the reassigning of wages for an assistant town manager. Any question on this line item from anyone?
Could I make one correction? That is
Certainly.
mostly because of the community television. The next department is the one that increases because of the assistant town manager.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Zoning Board of Adjustment, $8,505. The zoning board increase is $459 or 5.7%. Planning board budget is a decrease of $9,902 to a new number of $10,874. Town clerk budget, $226,845. That's a decrease of $9,025 or 3.83%. Finance budget, $318,186. That's a decrease of $25,373 or 7.38%. Assessing, total budget is $123,252, which is a decrease of $36,210 or minus 22.71%. Mentions the revaluation of property. That's going to be on a standalone warrant article that we'll get to. Tax collector total budget, $349,753, an increase of $1,652 or 0.47%. Legal expenses, that's been level funded at $115,444. Personal administration, $2,693,627. That's an increase of $35,778 or 1.35%. There's the breakdown. Health insurance for the employees, $2,423,305. Dental insurance, $89,206. Life and disability, $64,587. Unemployment compensation, $2,000. And workers' comp, $117,529. Okay, miscellaneous operating expenses, total budget $3,600, which is a decrease of $2,000 or 35.7%. Planning department total budget is $150,602, which is a decrease of $2,268 or 1.48%. Brewster building budget $150,406 for a decrease of $12,682 or 7.78%. Move on to cemeteries, $16,671, a decrease of $15,161 or 47.6%. Property liability insurance, $218,332. That's an increase of $18,027 or 9.0%. Technology budget is $317,042, an increase of $11,720 or 3.84%. Police department budget is $2,059,563. That's a decrease at the request of the commissioners and also the chief of $135,245 or 6.16%. Communication budget, $577,910. That's an increase of $13,154 or 2.3%. Animal control budget, $29,234. That's an increase of $2,210 or 8.2%. Fire department total budget $2,308,506. That's an increase of $124,972 or 5.2%. Public safety total budget, the building itself, $103,457. That's an increase of $40,202 or 63.6%. Emergency management, $4,310. That's a decrease of $4,320 or 9.1%. Ambulance service, $777,000. That's an increase of $501,047 or 181.57%. Okay. Any questions as far as we've gone so far? Okay, we'll keep going. Code enforcement, $109,244, a decrease of $1,212 or 1.09%. Health officer, $11,449. That's a $100 increase or 0.8%. Welfare budget, $72,514. That's a welfare decrease of $1,391 or 1.9%. Okay, Public Works Administration, $305,284. That's an increase of $135,380 or 79.7%. Highways and Streets, $1,727,231. That's an increase of $217,153 or 14.4%. Bridges, level funding, this is a new budget item for $4,500. Public Works Garage, $261,597 for a decrease of $4,196 or minus 1.6%. Public Works Grounds and Maintenance has a total budget of $219,186. That's an increase of $10,003 or 4.8%. Solid Waste budget, $1,201,580, an increase of $23,377 or 1.98%. And then we'll move on to the agencies. These community organizations that come and ask the community, ask the town for the support on their mission. The total is $114,322. That's a decrease of $18,521. Granite V&A is asked for $22,000. Meals on Wheels, $7,500. The Children's Center, $10,000. Tri-County Cap, $14,436. Life Ministries, $15,000. Starting Point, $7,357. That's an increase of $629. Kingswood Youth Center, $5,000. Northern Human Services, $7,449. Caregivers of Southern Carroll County, $4,000. Dinner Bell, $6,000. CASA of New Hampshire, $2,000. And 68 Hours of Hunger, $5,000. Children Unlimited, $2,750. Lakes Region, two new ones, the Lakes Region V&A for $5,000 and the Greater Wakefield Resource Center for $850. The agency requests are a decrease of $18,521. Okay, let's move on to Parks. Park Administration, $301,394. That's an increase of $26,113 or 9.49%. Park Maintenance, $297,214. That's an increase of $7,025 or 2.4%. Beaches, $122,159. That's a decrease of $3,688 or 2.93%. Program's total budget is $133,041, which is a decrease of $10,820 or 7.5%. Okay. Abenaki, total budget is $219,488. That's an increase of $50,023 or 29.5%. Hockey rink, total budget is $109,790. That's an increase of $9,352 or 9.3%. Community center, $11,012. That's an increase of $3,538 or 47.3%. Town docks, $17,982, and that has no change. Okay, the library, the total budget is $660,147. That's an increase of $50,915 or 8.4%. Conservation Commission, $22,784, an increase of $364 or 1.6%. Economic Development, $11,694. That's a decrease of $4,546 or minus 28%. Patriotic purposes is the same as it was last year, $11,236. Fireworks budget is $17,400 for an increase of $4,400 or 33.9%. Liberty Museum is set at $27,488. That's a decrease of $20,373 or 42.6%. Clark House, $18,284 for an increase of $5,592 or 44.1%. This is the debt service budget. This is the section where we pay off the bills that we've acquired for the all the construction work we've done on the buildings and things like that, and some other things. $2,584,657. That's an increase of $473,660 or 22.4%. Intercompany transfer total budget $590,455. That's a decrease in the sewer debt of $18,023 or minus 3.0%. Okay, these are the capital outlays. Total capital outlay is $167,051. If you look below, it shows what things we're going to buy. Technology is $24,051. Solid waste 4, that's to do the cement at the transfer station. The tennis and basketball court resurfacing. We originally had a request for $85,000. Parks and Rec was able to send it out to bid again. We knocked it down to $47,000. Water department roof $24,000. Water department doors $15,000, and sewer pumps $12,000. We also had a request from the fire department for either $70,000 or $75,000 for a new truck for the chief, and that's going to be taken out of what I call as our savings account for fire equipment, fire trucks, and things like that we've been saving for. And I want to thank the selectmen and the town manager for doing that. I appreciate it. Water fund. Administration, $219,445. The increase is $86,442 or 65%. Water technology, no increase at $5,400. Water distribution, $931,081. Water distribution increase is $95,848 or 11.5%. Water treatment plant, $686,488. Water distribution increase, $17,689 or 2.7%. The electric fund, personal administration, total budget of $349,378. Electric fund, personal administration, decrease of 7. Is that right, Jim? Is that a decrease? It's not in red.
No, it's an increase.
It's an increase, okay. Of $74,960 or 27.3%. Electric fund technology, no increase at $3,000. Electric administration, $1,277,188. That's an increase of $187,754 or 17.2%. Electric distribution, $2,156,740. That's a decrease of $393,259 or 15.4%. Electric generation, $7,416,410. That's an increase of $663,934 or 9.83%. Okay, the sewer fund. Sewer fund personal administration is $6,140. That's a decrease of $19,189 or minus 75.7%. Sewer fund technology service, no increases. That stays at $3,000. Sewer collections, $390,435, an increase of $28,273. Wastewater treatment plant, $1,438,065, an increase of $10,036 or 0.7%. Park Whalen personal administration, Total budget is $43,476. That's a decrease of $1,527, or minus 3.4%. Pop Whalen Fund, $435,114. That's an increase of $26,806, or 6.6%. Okay, my next slide. Yeah, operating budget. We read that one already, didn't we?
That's just the summary of everything you just did.
Okay. Again, this just shows the totals. This is what the warrant article will appear like, unless we have any changes this evening or at the deliberative section. Purpose set forth totaling $35,943,677. Should this article be defeated, the operating budget shall be $33,650,063, which is the same as last year's operating budget, with certain adjustments required by previous action of the town or by law, or by the governing body may hold one special meeting in accordance with RSA 40:3, 13, 10, and 16 to take up the issue of revised operating budget. Jim, if I could just ask you a couple of questions here. We hear a lot of things that our operating budget is more than all these other towns and things. At that $35,943,000, can you explain why we're up from the $20 million? You know, the purchase of electricity and the revenues that we're getting from those other groups.
Sure, John. So I'm going to back the slide up
Okay.
to be able to try and summarize that a little bit cleaner. So this particular slide right here, this lays out the general fund. In the general fund, the 2025 proposed budget is $20,570,784. That is an increase of $1,808,397, or 9.64%. That is the funds which are used to drive the tax rate. The water fund, the electric fund, the sewer fund, and the Pop Whalen fund, those are all enterprise funds. As enterprise funds, their user fees are supposed to be paying for their operational costs for their budget. When we create the budget for the enterprise funds, we look at the revenues and we work very hard to make sure that the revenues at least match, if not exceed, what the proposed budgets are. With our water fund, we will be looking at rates in the next couple of weeks with the Board of Selectmen. I believe it's actually February 5th. Our engineering firm will come in. They've looked at all of our debt service, they've looked at our projects, they've looked at our operations, and they're going to be able to tell us, okay, here is what your rates need to be in order to ensure that the water fund is self-sustaining and it doesn't require taxation to pay for the operations. We do the same thing with the sewer fund. However, I would note on the sewer fund years ago, at some point, there was a decision made in the town of Wolfeboro because the sewer department and the sewer area is so small and the infrastructure costs for the sewer are so high that there would be no way that the sewer fund would be able to pay for capital. So a decision was made that all capital costs would be absorbed as part of the general fund budget. And that's where, when you saw the debt services page, you saw that there was the interfund transfer. That is paying for the debt service associated with operating our wastewater treatment plant, collection system, the entire sewer department. Our electric department, we enjoy very attractive electric rates. The reason why we have these electric rates, number one, we were able to strike a deal a few years back with the help of the director, Mr. Muccio, in conjunction with our legal team that represents us when we build out the rates. and we were able to strike a very good deal for our purchase power for 5 years, which I think we're on year 3 of a 5-year contract. We'll be looking at that beginning next year to see what the plan is to get into a new contract for purchase power that is actually budgeted. Barry in the municipal electric department is fortunate enough that he collects enough revenue within his budget that he's very self-sustaining and puts a fair chunk of money into the bank every year and is able to pay for all of the projects. Again, that's through users' fees and no taxation. Pop Whalen Enterprise Fund, we're working very hard with the new director and the users to get this fund to a break-even standpoint. We are still struggling to get there, but I believe under the leadership of the new operations manager, I think that over the next couple of years, we're going to see some substantial improvements in the ice utilization and the utilization of the facility as a whole to get this thing to at least a break-even standpoint. So with that said, when you look at this slide, the general fund, that 20 million, that is what is used to calculate your taxes. The other funds, the water, electric, sewer, and Pop Whalen Fund are paid through user fees. Hope that answers the question you asked, John.
Yes, it did. Thank you. I just wanted to...
John?
Yes, sir.
Yes, just doing a little math on this. Jim, just to also add to what you said. In our budget, $20 million, $570,784 is taxable, and then $15 million, $372,893 are paid by rates that are assigned to the enterprise funds. So when somebody looks at our budget, they may get the idea that we pay taxes on $35,943,677, and that is false. We only pay taxes on $20,570,784. It is somewhat unusual when you think about all of the governments around the lake. However, this is a very efficient way of doing our operating budget. Thank you. Thanks, John.
Thank you, Bob. Okay, let's, operating budget warrant article. Estimated tax rate is $7.65. The tax rate for 2024 was $6.73. That's an increase of 92 cents, or 13.67%. Here's the estimated tax rate. Again, this is for the, not the town only, doesn't include the school district or the county. $300,000 home is an increase of 276. $450,000 increase of 414. $700,000 an increase of 644. $1 million an increase of $920. If you look over to the left, my left, which would be, I guess, excuse me, they've got the proposed warrant articles, estimated tax rate, operating budget 619. Again, these, if all the warrant articles pass. Fire-based ambulance service, 33 cents. Town road upgrades, 36 cents. River Street, 8 cents. Library solar power project, 2 cents. Libby Museum restoration, 14 cents. The ASME union contract, 6 cents. Police union contract, 2 cents. Police vehicles, 4 cents. Body cameras, 4 cents. Municipal reevaluation, 9 cents. Evaluation repair to the small sewer pump stations, 4 cents. Jim, can you remind me, what's that WWTP CRF?
That's the wastewater treatment plant capital reserve fund. And these two items, as stated earlier, the small sewer pump stations and the wastewater treatment plant, based on the fact that we pay for capital through the general fund, they are used to create this calculation.
Okay, thank you. 7 cents. Then we go down to the Public Works vehicle, 15 cents. Abenaki, 1 cent. Tree removal and replacement, 1 cent, for a total of $7.65. That's if all those warrant articles pass. Okay, any questions about the 2025 operating budget, that warrant article? Okay, we'll move on then. This is the ambulance service non-binding referendum. Are you in favor of the town of Wolfeboro establishing a fire department-based 911 ambulance service to become effective January 1st, 2027, as outlined below? The program will authorize the funding through separate warrant articles in 2025 and 2026. All funds outlined will be above and beyond the current fire department budget and staffing as proposed in 2025. Expenses for 2025 are $816,223, as outlined in the 2025 warrant article. Expenses for 2026 are estimated to be $1,402,905, which includes staffing costs as outlined in the 2025 warrant article. Funding to purchase a new fully equipped ambulance, hiring 3 additional employees, which includes wages, benefits, and required equipment. These actions will place the town of Wolfeboro in a position to provide fire department-based ambulance service effective January 1st, 2027. The expenses for 2027 are estimated to be $1,105,559. These funds, combined with the existing fire department budget and staffing, will provide the town of Wolfeboro with 3 management employees, 18 full-time employees, and 2 fully operational ambulances. Further, effective January 1st, 2027, the town of Wolfeboro will no longer contract with a private operating ambulance service, which is budgeted in 2025. This was recommended by the Board of Selectmen by a vote of 5-0. Is there someone that can talk about that right in the audience?
So Chief Zoddy is here with Ray Stolarski, who was the chairman of the ad hoc committee. I believe they are able to speak on behalf of this briefly.
Okay, thank you very much. Chief?
I'm Dr. Ray Stolarski. I was the chair of the ad hoc committee for the ambulance service. And there were a number of members, Justin Brown, 2 of the select board members, Brian Deshay and Paul O'Brien. Your own budget committee members were Bob Tuffer and Bob Lohman, Catherine Carpentier, the assistant town manager, fire chief, Tom Gathram was the union rep, Jim Dearborn was the alternate citizen rep, and Nate Nichols was the alternate for the chief. The ad hoc ambulance service evaluation committee was created to determine if the fire department-based 911 ambulance service or a contracted private 911 ambulance service would be the best path forward for the town of Wolfeboro, and also making the best financial and operational suggestion to the town. I'll turn it over to the chief now for our present situation. Sneak over.
Do we have the slides? Our present situation, we took a look at around the state and to a lesser degree around the country to kind of assess where we are. A short history, in early 2023, our current contractor, Stewart's Ambulance, indicated they would not be interested in renewing the contract we had at the time, which in a nutshell resulted in a request for proposals for a new private ambulance service vendor. We did get 2 responses, which we will go into some level of detail here shortly. It also resulted in the formation of the ad hoc committee and a separate study by Municipal Resources, Inc., to determine what would be the most appropriate path forward for the town of Wolfeboro. The long and the short of it, as far as the situation around the state, is frankly, we have a problem. There's a disturbing trend of private ambulance companies closing on very short notice and/or approaching their communities for dramatic increases in their subsidies to continue operation. A few examples. Lincoln Woodstock, known as Linwood Ambulance, has approached their communities for a significant additional subsidy to continue service. Berlin, they were approached or were presented with a significantly higher fee from their private provider, is in the process of transitioning to fire-based EMS. In the Keene area, the Luzio ambulance closed on short notice. You may have read or heard in the news in recent months the Exeter Hospital Paramedic Intercept program. They announced they were closing the service. There was an outcry from many of the communities that were served. The New Hampshire Attorney General's office is involved. That closure was delayed for a period of time. The point where the committee concluded with, I think, is that the trend is not in our favor. We felt it was a prudent approach to develop a program that addresses these issues before it becomes a crisis. A recent survey by the New Hampshire Ambulance Association shows 68% of the members polled feel inadequate Medicare and private insurance reimbursement have resulted, frankly, in a crisis, as the reimbursements don't cover the cost of the service. This means higher fees to the communities to offset those losses. One thing we did note as a committee, the census data shows 33% of Wolfeboro residents are age 65 plus. Obviously, as we age, we tend to require more of those EMS services.
The committee findings developed a phased-in plan that would extend starting this year till December 31st of 2026. This will encompass the approval of 2025 financials at the town meeting in March of this year. We would then go on to hiring a deputy chief of EMS around April 1st of this year, begin added staffing on July 1st, operating with a minimum of 4 on duty. Also this year, we would begin operations of 1 ambulance in late 2025. In 2026, upon approval of the financials around March of 2026, we would add the remainder of the staffing on July 1st of that year, begin operations with a minimum of 5 on duty, and take over a 2nd ambulance in late 2026. We would then commence full fire-based ambulance service on January 1 of 2027.
The proposed financial impact to the town in the year 2025 would include hiring of the EMS deputy chiefs as of approximately April 1st. It would include hiring 3 additional firefighter EMTs with a start date of approximately July 1st. It would include a car or a response for the deputy chief of EMS. It would include purchase of the fully equipped used ambulance and the additional budgeted funds necessary to carry out the above, for a total of $816,223 in 2025.
Jim, can you switch the slide to the next one that has all the figures on it? These are the amounts that you just talked about?
That we have a separate presentation, but yes.
Oh, you have a second presentation?
That's it.
Okay.
For 2025, yes. In 2026, the numbers would include a full year of that deputy chief of EMS position, a full year of those 3 new employees, 3 additional employees on or about July 1st of 2026, would include purchase of a fully equipped new ambulance.
The presentation there. Okay.
And the additional operating funds for same. That comes to a total for 2026 of $1,402,905. We include this in our presentation, I think, in the interest of transparency, to lay out what the program would look like over multiple years. just again, to be transparent. I will note that we have applied for a federal grant that, if successful, would cover the cost of the new ambulance and the equipment for that. We won't know the results of that application till summertime in 2025. The performance period is such that that would be in line with our proposed timeframe for 2026. And finally, in the proposed impact in 2027 would include a full year of all those employees previously discussed and the additional operating budget for them in 2027. That is a total of $1,105,566. Again, one of the things that we were able to do, should we be successful, if we begin operations with one ambulance towards the end of 2025, we have the ability to renegotiate the contract with Stewart's Ambulance downward to reflect our operation of one of the ambulances, which would, obviously, the time frame would be a little up for debate, but we would anticipate sometime approximately of November 1st to being in a position to begin to operate one ambulance, as we'll call it the backup, while we ramp up the proposal.
Our presentation also listed the critical success factors, which is an optimal pre-hospital care for the citizens and visitors within the town of Wolfeboro. It gives us a transitional approach over a 2-year period, whereas we ramp up, Stewart's will ramp down, and at the same time, it gives us the ability to get the onboarding, to get the licenses that are necessary, to train the individuals up to par, and it brings about improved resources and safety across all services. The added benefit as well, which we don't have right now, is the fact that with the onboarding of these other individuals for the EMS, they are also firefighter trained. And at the present time, we don't have that coming out of Stewart. So that's an added benefit, gives us a greater overall financial value. So the committee's final recommendation from the ad hoc committee to the Board of Selectmen was to adopt, support, and create relevant warrant articles for the 2025 town meeting to support this fire-based ambulance service run by the Wolfeboro Fire and Rescue Department. These articles are listed before you tonight. This program is phased in and would be completed on December 31st, 2026, with the fire department taking over completely on January 1 of 2027. It'll include that deputy chief of EMS, added 6 personnel, operating with a minimum staffing of 5 line personnel on duty around the clock, and a guarantee that the fire department isn't leaving anytime soon. The committee encourages the town to pursue any available grant funding, which the fire department has already implemented to help offset the capital and staffing costs, and the fire and rescue has continued to look for other grants and means to further fund this. At this time, we would entertain any questions from the committee.
Any questions from the audience? Okay, seeing none, I want to thank you guys, your committee, for doing all the work. I know you worked hard over the summer months putting all this information together. Would it be possible if, Chief, could the public stop and get a copy of this, or either at the department or at the town hall, do you think?
Presumably, I could arrange to have it put on the website.
Okay, that would be great, thank you.
Mr. Chairman, I would just note, on the town website, there is an ambulance committee page on the left-hand toolbar. All the information for this project going back to the summer of, what was it, 2023, Tom?
Yeah.
It's all there.
Oh, great.
We've done, a year and a half worth of legwork, and that is all on that webpage.
Yeah, I appreciate all the work that you folks did putting this all together.
And certainly, if somebody emailed, we'd be happy to send it to them.
Okay. Great, thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you.
John?
Yes, sir.
I'd like to add a couple of things to what Chief Zadi had said. And I will recall back in, I believe, late July, the Insurance Commissioner of New Hampshire, Mr. Betancourt, did a piece on Channel 9 WMUR, and the conversation was about the startling failures of private ambulance services. And Commissioner Betancourt indicated that the best way to deal with this is to create a town-wide ambulance service or a fire-based ambulance service, because the town would have the guarantee that a fire-based ambulance service would not disappear, whereas a private ambulance service might go bankrupt. And we've had a number of these occur in the state of New Hampshire. One big company, particularly in the southwest corner of the state around Keene, was in business for about 70 years, and all of a sudden notified all of the towns they were serving that they were going out of business. This is a very, very big problem in the state, and maybe beyond the state lines. The owner of Stewart's Ambulance, I believe his name is Mr. Justin Van Etten.
Correct.
He sent the town a letter back prior to July, and he indicated that he could no longer, or Stewart's Ambulance could no longer, serve Wolfeboro for 911 calls. He wanted to remain in service, transporting hospital to hospital from Huggins, and I believe they still are. And Mr. Van Etten recommended that we go to a fire-based ambulance service. He felt that would be the best way for our future. He indicated he would help us out for a couple of years while we were hopefully in transition, and he was very helpful that way. Also, Wolfeboro we are a senior community, as the chief said, about 33% over age 65. We also have a nursing home with over 90 beds in it off Clark Road. We have 2 assisted living facilities on our Taylor community campuses. We have 2 senior housing complexes in the Ledges and Christian Ridge, and we have plenty of us old folks to live in our houses. So I think it's very important that we have a dependable ambulance service, and this is the best way to go. Thank you, John.
Thank you, Bob. Anyone else in the committee wanted to? Sure, you go, Brian.
Chief, understanding that should this move forward, the first purchase would be a used ambulance and followed up by another ambulance, second ambulance down the road. Has there been any discussion looking forward about establishing a capital reserve fund for replacement down the road? How far out from the initial used ambulance purchase would they be looking at having to replace it?
Good question. We, as this recommendation developed, it coincided with the Capital Improvement Committee's work for into 24, into 25. We have added placeholders for ambulances to our capital improvement program going forward in the 10-year window. The intent would be to start with the used ambulance and go on to a 5-year rotation. The used one would be essentially traded in towards a new one after 5 years. The new one gets placed in service, the current one moves to second due, and we rotate going forward. Based on the number of projected calls and so forth, a 10-year lifespan seems to be appropriate.
Brian, if I may answer that, it's a subject that we talked about. We have not, the committee itself has not really set down in stone whether we are going to do a capital reserve account like the one we have now for the fire equipment. But that needs to be established once we get the rotation established. Your point is well taken.
And if I may, I don't want to speak for the Board of Selectmen, but there's a selectman's rep here. I think when this began to come to a head in 2023, there was discussion of using the existing capital reserve fund to make some part of this purchase. And the board felt that because that wasn't contemplated when that capital reserve fund was created, they frankly didn't want to go down that road. I think their intent, and please jump in if I'm not understanding it correctly, was with this level of publicity and so forth, there would be comfortable in the assumption that going forward, if we choose to add money to that for ambulances, it would be appropriate. Does that summarize kind of where you?
There would need to be a change in the wording of the capital reserve fund because it doesn't say the word ambulance. So we could do it that way, or we could do a separate one, but we'd have to work with the wording to change the name.
If I could, the one other thing that I would add to this, under state law, an ambulance service is permitted to have a revolving fund where a certain percentage of the revenues which come in from ambulance billing is allowed to go into an account for the purpose of purchasing equipment, which is a good plan going forward. The town of Tilton Northfield does it very successfully, and the advantage to this is when you've got cardiac monitors upwards of $50,000, stretchers in the upwards of $20,000, stair chairs upwards of $15,000, you've got some seed money there that you're creating that revenue from that would give the flexibility if one of these pieces of equipment gets damaged, there can be a replacement secured pretty quickly. But that is down the road. We got to get this approved first.
Thank you, Jim. Okay, let's move on to the next warrant article, which is the fire-based ambulance service. To raise and appropriate the sum of $816,223 to establish a fire-based ambulance service for the town of Wolfeboro. Authorize the Board of Selectmen to apply for, obtain, and accept federal, state, and other aid grants and donations, if any which may be available for said project, that may reduce the appropriate sum of $816,223, and to comply with all laws applicable and to authorize the Board of Selectmen to take any other actions or to pass any other vote relative thereto, and to authorize the town manager to sign any relating documents. The plan is to transition away from the current contracting ambulance service. The first of the plan is hire Deputy Chief Paramedic with all benefits as of April 1st, 2025, $124,785. Hire three firefighters EMS personnel as of July 1st, 2025, $228,605. Operating expenses for the above four new hires, $93,833. Purchase a vehicle for the Deputy Chief Paramedic, $75,000. Purchase a fully equipped used ambulance, $294,000. This was recommended with the Board of Selectmen by a vote of 5-0. Any more questions about the fire-based ambulance service? Okay, seeing none, we'll move on. Excuse me. To see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $900,000 for the purpose of upgrading and engineering town roads and drainage systems. This appropriation is not lapsing pursuant to RSA 32:76 and shall lapse on December 31st, 2026, or upon completion of the project, whichever occurs first. This would be 36 cents per thousand.
Steve wasn't able to make it here this evening, but I can quickly cover what the scope of work proposed for 2025 is. Municipal parking lot at Linder's Flowers, $45,000. Municipal parking lot at Town Hall, $20,000. Union Street, $12,000. Partridge Drive at the top, $34,000. Maplewood Drive at the top, $18,000. Berrywood Drive at the top, $36,000. Jiminy Drive, top, $26,000. A Deer Run, top of the road, $12,000. Chipmunk Drive, the top, $12,000. Sewell Road Reclaim Base Section, $80,000. Point Sewell Reclaim Base Pave, $85,000. Sections of Beach Pond, $195,000. Middleton Road Ceiling, $125,000. Dirt work, $200,000 for your total of $900,000. I'll remind you, last year we backed this down, and at the deliberative session, there was a motion on the floor to increase it, and we've brought it to the same level again, and there is another warrant article for additional road work to be done, as well as a hybrid project with the water department. But this lays out the scope of work for 2025.
So this is sufficient funding to do the roads that we need to do?
Excuse me?
This is sufficient funding to do the roads that we need to do? Okay,
Correct.
thank you. We're planning on voting on Thursday because we still have a couple of warrant articles that we haven't received yet. Thank you. Thank you for the question. Okay, River Street rebuild and water main replacement. To see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $350,000 for the purpose of upgrading River Street. Funds shall be utilized for engineering fees, stormwater drainage system, water main upgrades, and the repair of sewer lines and rebuilding River Street. $150,000 from the Water Enterprise Fund shall be for the purpose of engineering and replacement of the vintage water mains which service River Street. $200,000 from general taxation shall be for the purpose of engineering and making repairs to existing sewer lines in River Street, stormwater drainage systems, and rebuilding of River Street. This appropriation is non-lapsing pursuant to RSA 32:76 and shall lapse on December 31st, 2026, or upon completion of the project, whichever occurs first. This is 8 cents per 1,000 assessed valuation, recommended by the Selectmen 5-0. Any questions on this warrant article?
I would just add one very key point to this. This is not the full length of River Street. This takes from the intersection of Center Street just beyond the railroad tracks. We know that we have lead joints in the water main down there. We have to get that removed. And this has been a project that got delayed last year and pushed off to this year. Priority project for the water department.
Thank you, Jim. Any questions? Okay, let's move on. Melody and Keniston Island reconstruction. To see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $525,000 for the purpose of reconstruction of the overhead electrical distribution system on Melody and Keniston Islands, which supplies power to approximately 40 customers. This project will include new pole structures, 15 kV rated conductors, insulators, transformers, service conductors, and associated trimming to reduce outages and safety concerns at these locations. This appropriation is non-lapsing pursuant to RSA 32:76 and shall lapse on December 31st, 2026, or upon completion of the project, whichever occurs first. This project will be paid for by the Municipal Electric Enterprise Fund and will not result in any increase in the tax rate. Barry, did you want to mention anything about this?
Good evening, Barry Muccio, Wolfeboro Electric Department. Just an upgrade of some of our oldest infrastructure in town in a remote location. Stuff is probably 60 years old on average out there, so it's due.
Thank you. Any questions on this warrant article? Okay, seeing none, we'll move on. Armory interior ceiling. To see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $100,000 for the purpose of repairing the interior ceiling within the electric department garage, which consists of an open cathedral-style roof with batting insulation covered in Tyvek construction wrap. This Tyvek is affixed to wood strapping, which are held in place between the horizontal structural steel purlins. Age has resulted in deterioration of the wrap and causes strapping insulation to dislodge and fall in places. The proposal is to apply metal sheathing style steel roofing panels with associated superstructures over the Tyvek materials and insulation to provide a code-compliant, stable, and aesthetically presentable finish. This appropriation is non-lapsing pursuant to RSA 32:76 and shall lapse on December 31st, 2026, or upon the completion of the project, whichever occurs first. This project will be paid for Municipal Electric Enterprise Fund and will not result in an increase in the tax rate. Any questions about this one? Okay, move on. Library solar project. To see if the town to vote and raise and appropriate the sum of $173,381 for the purpose of installing solar array and associated equipment on the Wolfeboro Public Library. The sum of $52,014 will be from taxation, the balance of the funds for the project to be through the acceptance of at least $121,367 from grants, donations, and rebates. This is recommended by the Selectmen 5-0 and 2 cents per thousand. Anyone from the library? Jim, can you? Oh, please come up. Thank you.
Good evening.
Evening.
Sure. I am really tall. So this project was initially discussed at the 2020 library renovation project. And at the great work that Nancy Hirschberg has done, she has actually secured grants and donations which will pay for 70% of this project. So to just give you a little recap, the actual cost would be $173,381, and that builds in at 5% contingency. All of the grants and donations that have been raised equal $121,367. The only thing that's outstanding is the $52,000 that is needed to actually float the project until the federal government can give us back a rebate, we're hoping. And that will be for, as I say, $52,000, which will be a tax impact rate of 2 cents to 1,000. Is there any particular questions that you would like me to go over, or?
I think you've answered all our questions. How about in the audience? Any questions? Thank you very much.
All right.
Okay, let's move on to Libby Museum restoration. To see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $350,000 for the purpose of engineering and stabilizing repairs to the museum building, and to secure cost estimates for further building renovations and repairs. This appropriation is non-lapsing pursuant to RSA 32:76 and shall lapse on December 31st, 2026, or upon completion of the project, whichever occurs first. Estimated tax impact is 14 cents per thousand. The selectmen voted unanimously 5-0 to support this article. Jim, can you give us a little breakdown of this, your thoughts on this?
Sure. So this summer we had a mold issue at the Libby Museum. That mold issue resulted in some additional evaluation of the building being performed. When that additional work was performed, we brought in H.L. Turner, an engineering group, to look at the Libby Museum to ensure that the building is safe. They came back with their final report, which we received a little over a week ago now, I believe. And the recommendations, the preliminary recommendation to start was, based on our visual field observations, we recommend closing the Libby Museum until the structural repairs are made. Significant structural repairs and remediation are required for safe occupancy of the building. These required structural repairs may include, but are not limited to, replacing all columns along the north wall and rebuilding the wall. Add, replace top and bottom sill plates. Replace broken floor joists. Replace timber beam shims and plumb concrete piers under the building as needed. Foundation crack repairs. upgrade and repair of the roof framing and/or replace the uneven roof. These monies will be able to allow us to, number one, stabilize the building, and number two, to be able to get the artifacts out of the building, and number three, to be able to secure an estimate, so when we're sitting in front of you next year, we know what the actual costs to renovate and repair the Libby Museum will be going forward.
Thank you, Jim. Any questions concerning the Libby Museum restoration warrant article? Yes, ma'am. Can you just come up there? Thank you. And if you could state your name, too, that'd be great.
My name is Lucy Hancock, Worcester Island Road. Just wondering, is this the beginning of more costs for the museum, or is this the initial design, and it'll be followed by more costs later?
That is absolutely correct. So this would be the initial cost to be able to secure the building, to be able to stabilize the building, to be able to remove the artifacts, and to be able to get pricing to fix the building completely.
And because of the way the estate was left for the ownership or management of the museum, are the select board members still the trustees? And are you bound because of the way the will was structured that you must do this in perpetuity? There's no way that we can avoid doing these things, right? Brian?
We have to ask the voters. We've been in correspondence with the Attorney General's office based on the trust. We have to try to put our best effort forward to reopen the building, and I think Brian can speak from that point.
Our options are, if we could find an organization that has the financial capabilities, knows how to run a museum, and would accept the museum as new trustees, the town could do that. Barring that, we, as the trustees of the museum, are bound to make sure that the museum is opened and used for a like purpose. So it has to be run as a museum, or it could be run as a museum/environmental center, or Squam Lakes type facility, or something like that. But we have a fiduciary duty from the Attorney General's trust unit that we need to maintain the building and get it back into shape.
Okay, any other questions on the Libby Museum? Okay, seeing none, we'll move on. This is the ASCAM union contract for town employees. To see if the town will vote to approve the cost items included in the three-year collective bargaining agreement reached between the Board of Selectmen and Local 534 of the American Federation of State, County, and Municipal Employees, which calls for the following increases in salaries and benefits at the current staffing levels. 2025 wage increase of $128,928, benefits $27,110, for a total of $156,038. 2026 wages increase $131,768, benefits $28,532, for an increase of $160,300. 2027 wages increase $120,036, benefit increase of $29,734, for a total increase of $149,770. And to further raise and appropriate $156,038 for the current year, such sum representing the additional cost attributable to the increase in wages and benefits required by the new agreement over those that would be paid at the current levels. This is recommended by the Board of Selectmen, a vote of 5-0. Any questions on the union contract?
One question, John.
Yes, sir.
Jim, what percent increase is that over the current level?
So this contract, each year, year one is a 5% COLA to the step plan. All employees would receive a 5%. Year two is a 3% COLA to the step plan and a step for a total of 5% for the employees. Year 3 is a 3% COLA to the step plan and a 2% step to the employees for 5%. So over the course of the 3 years, it's a 15% increase. Additionally, this also increases the length of service stipend for many of our employees to help maintain retention.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions?
Hey, John, I have one.
Yes, sir.
On the COLA, you're assuming that there's going to be an ongoing 5% increase in cost of living over the next 3+ years?
That's what we put into the contract. One of the items with this, both of our contracts are, when we compare it to other communities, we are low. So the plan was, through numerous hours of negotiations, was to bring up those wages, and the best way we felt to do that was with the COLAs.
Thanks.
Okay, any other questions on the union contract for the employees? Seeing none, we'll move on to the police union contract, which is with the New England Police Benevolent Association, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the cost items included in the 3-year collective bargaining agreement reached between the town and local number 39 of the New England Police Benevolent Association, which calls for the following increases in wages and benefits at the current staffing level. 2025 wages $40,086, benefits $11,857, for a total of $51,943. 2026 wages $44,881, benefits $13,299, for a total of $58,180. 2027 wages $51,783, benefits $15,353, total of $67,136. And to further raise and appropriate the sum of $51,943 for the current year, such sum representing the additional costs attributable to the increases in wages and benefits required by the new agreement over those that would be paid at current levels. 2 cents per thousand, 4-0 on recommendation by the Board of Selectmen. Any questions on the police union contract?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Jim, same question as the one on the SME.
Yeah, so year 1 contract, first of all, it increases the starting wage of a police officer to what we feel is competitive for an entry-level police officer. From that, it's again 15% over 3 years. This particular contract, the steps are 3.5%. So year 1, it's a 3.5%, or a step is 3.5% and a COLA of 2%. Year 2, a step of 3.5% and a 2% COLA. And year 3, a 3% step, 3.5% step and a 2% COLA for 15% over the course of the contract.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jim. Any other questions on the police union contract?
John?
Yes, sir.
Jim, what would be the starting salary for a newly hired officer straight out of the academy?
I believe that the starting was $29.15, I believe was the number that we came up with for the new starting wage.
Thank you, Jim. Okay, let's move on. Police replacement vehicle, to see if the town will raise and appropriate the sum of $125,274 for the purpose of purchasing 2 police vehicles and for the installation of ancillary vehicle equipment with $13,000 from the police detail revolving fund, created by the Article 23 in 2006, which has accumulated from special details with a remaining balance of $112,274 to come from taxation. 2025 impact 4 cents per thousand, voted by the selectmen to recommend 5-0. Chief, can you come up and tell us a little bit about the cruisers?
Good evening, all. I'll try to speak loud enough because I'm not sure what's happening here. This ask is for 2 cruisers, and that's a purchase, not a lease, and I'll answer those questions. First of all, we had a lot of conversations and a lot of meetings, it seems, about how many and where do we get them from? How do we pay for them? We've gone from 2 to 3 to 4 to 5 cars, back to 3, back to 2. We've settled on 2. Here's why it's a little up in the air, or it was up in the air. In 2016, the town of Wolfeboro Police Department purchased 4, or at least 4 cruisers. Those 4 cruisers are all up over 100,000 miles now. It's 9 years later. The plan was, as I have understood it, is that we would be replacing these cruisers in time. What has happened is those 4 cars are still in service. At the time, I believe there was 11 cars on the lot. There are 9 cars in service now, having lost 2 cars and not replaced those either. What our hope for this year is to purchase 2 cruisers, split the difference, if you will, get rid of the 2 highest mileage cars. I believe right now the high mile car is 150,000, and the next one in line is 138,000 miles, and that doesn't include the amount of hours on the car. We chose purchase over lease due to the 6% APR on a lease. Is there any other questions I can answer for you?
Any questions from the public?
I have a question.
Yes, sir.
I thought historically we had agreed to replace 1 vehicle a year. I thought that was what we established back 2 or 3 years ago, and we maintained that right along, and now we're departing from it. I'd like to know why.
I think last year they asked for a vehicle and it was denied by the voters. I think he's probably trying to play catch up. Is that a fair assumption?
That's correct.
Thank you. Any other questions on this one? Did you get you all set? Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Chief. Okay, so we'll move on from the police replacement vehicle, and we'll go to the purchase of the body cameras. To see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $102,339 to purchase 15 body cameras for active officers. Authorizing Board of Selectmen to apply for, obtain, and accept federal, state, or other aid grants and donations, if and any which may be available for said project, and may reduce the sum of $102,339, and to comply with all laws applicable to said purchase, and to authorize the Board of Selectmen to make any other actions or to pass any other vote relative thereto, and to authorize the town manager to sign any relating documents. This appropriation is non-lapsing pursuant to RSA 32:76 and shall lapse on December 31st, 2026, upon the completion of the project, whichever comes first. This appropriation will come from taxation. Tax rate is 4 cents per thousand of your assessed value, and this is recommended by the Board of Selectmen 5-0. Anyone from the department want to discuss this? Talk about this? Yeah, might as well come up and tell us about what your plans are, Chief. Or tell the public, so they'll know. Okay.
Body cams, and I'm sure anybody who's ever turned on the television or checked YouTube for what's going on in the world are familiar with body-worn cameras. Get into technicality. What I will tell you is that they have been a decision point for a lot of police departments across the nation for quite some time now. My own personal feeling professionally has changed over the years. When they first came out, I wasn't a big fan. There wasn't a whole lot of oversight, and each department could kind of do whatever they wanted. That has changed. Those of you who'd like to know a little bit more about what the state has done, you should refer to New Hampshire RSA 105-D2, and that will explain that the state has taken, the legislature has taken a role in helping to establish proper use of this equipment. For me, as a police chief of a town, 2 words that my department, I hope, are not sick of hearing, but will keep hearing, is accountability and transparency. Those 2 items with a body-worn camera complete the picture. It protects not only the citizenry of the town, but it also protects the police officers. Makes us better at what we do, and it allows the officer and their actions to be viewed by the administration and protects that officer against false claims, as well as protects the citizen against perhaps an officer who didn't follow policy. It's a smart grab. Any questions from the commission?
Is there enough said?
There is a state statute that requires the state kick in some money for towns and cities. We're looking it up to around $24,000.
Any other questions? Thank you, Chief. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
I'm sorry. Go ahead, sir. If you could just identify yourself, too, that'd be great. Thank you.
Doug Bruskin. Actually, this question is about the police vehicles, which just occurred to me, if I could ask.
Certainly.
The warrant article states that the funds will be raised for the purpose of purchasing 2 vehicles, and the chief mentioned leasing, and I'm wondering if the text should be changed to clarify that so that the voters understand.
That was his first intention to lease, and then after doing some research, he found that purchase was the better way to go. Thank you. Anything to contribute? All set, Chief?
Possibly at this point. Back when it was leased in 2016, and I'm sure you folks remember better, Rachel would be salary.
Great.
Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you for the question also, Mr. Ruskin. Appreciate it. Okay, let's move on. Municipal revaluation, to see if the town will vote to raise an appropriate sum of $230,000 to meet our constitutional and statutory requirement to perform a municipal revaluation assessment to ensure assessments are at full and true value at least every 5th year. Per State of New Hampshire Law, RSA 75:8-A, reevaluation was last performed in 2020. 9 cents per 1,000 assessed value, and this is voted by the selectmen to recommend 5-0. Jim, do you want to talk a little bit about this, if you could?
Sure, I'd love to. So this was in the 2024 proposed operating budget. However, when the budget failed, this was an item which was removed. Couple of keywords in this particular warrant article: constitutional, statutory, every 5 years. Last done 2020. That should sum it up that we are required to do this going forward. Now, there's a couple ways that we can get at this. If this gets voted down at town meeting, there is a very strong likelihood that New Hampshire DRA will come in and they will instruct us to move forward with the reevaluation and to utilize potentially our fund balance or some other means to perform the reevaluation. We don't want to go down that road. We're coming in front of you this year with a standalone warrant article asking you to fund this project so that we can do the reevaluation. We have a contractor lined up, ready to go. New Hampshire DRA has contacted us as of last week, wanting to schedule a meeting with myself and the assessor to see about how, or to get our status as to where we're at in moving forward with this project. So again, I would just reiterate, constitutionally and statutory requirement, every 5th year, last done in 2020, we're in 2025, we need to do this project.
Thank you, Jim.
I have a question.
Yes, sir.
If this passes and the budget doesn't, and we go to default, because this passes, this would be funded, correct?
Correct.
Thank you.
Any other questions from anyone? Bobby?
Hi, Bobby Budman. I just have a question about this. What is the unassigned fund balance at this time?
I believe it is 3 million and some change.
And so my question is, why are we not funding this from the unassigned fund balance? If it's something that the state is going to force us to do anyway.
I believe the Board of Selectmen made a conscious decision with myself and the voters last year based on what happened previously, which put us into a bad position at the end of 2023 for our fund balance. And as a result of that, we said we would not go forward and utilize fund balance for projects in the
But our
future.
unassigned fund balance is not a slush fund, so we're supposed to actually allocate it during warrant articles for projects such as these. So my suggestion is maybe we can add a line and fund this from the unassigned fund balance. Thanks.
Thank you for your question, Bobby. Any other questions on the municipal reevaluation? Okay, let's move on.
I have a question, John.
Yes, sir.
Procedural. So to Bobby's point, if she's asking for that, would that be at the public meeting coming up on Thursday if someone wanted to support that? I'm just wondering as the procedural part of it.
I think procedurally, the best way that has to be done is at the deliberative session. I will get clarification on that, but I believe that is the place for that to be done.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, we all set? Okay, let's move on. Evaluation repairs of the small sewer pump stations. To see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $100,000 to perform an evaluation to dictate the most efficient path forward for scheduled repairs, replacements, and maintenance. This appropriation is non-lapsing pursuant to RSA 32:76 and shall lapse on December 31st, 2026, or upon completion of the project, whichever occurs first. This appropriation will come from taxation, 4 cents per thousand of the assessed value. This is recommended by the Selectmen on a vote of 5-0.
So we have a total of 9 sewer pump stations in town, 7 smaller pump stations. They're all in poor condition. We need to develop a plan and start implementing the plan for these repairs and replacement of the pumps. As of this week, we actually have a switchgear for a generator in one of our pump stations, which has failed. So this is an ongoing issue. We have got to get these things under control, and this is a good path forward to get this under control with a replacement schedule and get some repairs done.
Thank you, Jim. Any questions for the...
Yes.
Yes, sir.
So these basically are quote-unquote engineering fees, is that what I'm hearing?
It's a good portion of it, correct, to develop the plan in conjunction with some scheduled replacements and unscheduled replacements, repairs that occurred.
But there are no replacements and repairs included in this $100,000. It's strictly an evaluation fund.
Correct.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
Yes, John.
Yes, sir.
Jim, when we get to the point of repairs, is there still grant money around for sewer repairs? That you know of anyway. It used to be around 20%, I believe, and then it may have dropped to about 15%.
So there is still, and you will see that in the Mill Street warrant article, there is still funds available for loan forgiveness and whatnot for bonded projects which go in front of the state revolving loan fund.
Thank you.
Okay, any other questions? Seeing none, we'll move on. Excuse me, wastewater treatment plant capital reserve fund funding. To see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $175,000 to be added to the existing wastewater treatment plant capital reserve fund, which as of December 31st, 2024, has a balance of $227,921. These funds are under the custody of the trustee of the trust funds, with selectmen designated as agents to expend their capital reserve fund. This appropriation will come from taxation. 7 cents per thousand assessed value, recommended by the selectmen on a vote of 5-0. Any questions on the wastewater treatment plant? Jim, you want to do a quick blurb on it?
So I'll give you a quick ride through this one. It's been interesting. A few years back, we had teed up the replacement of the wastewater treatment plant to the tune of $12 million. We had a conversation with our contracted operator and said, look, if we were to bare bones this project down, what could we get it to? So they came back and they said, yep, we can do this project for about $6 million. The problem is if we do it that way, there will be no state and federal grant funding. So you'll be paying $6 million. To that, the $12 million project would be eligible for 50% forgiveness, so we would get a much larger project, a much more robust plant for the same price. When we got that information, we kind of put it on hold for a little bit, and back, I believe, in August, September, something like that, our engineering firm came in front of the Board of Selectmen and said, look, we think that your plant has got some good bones. You have taken and you have applied money correctly to this plant to keep it going. We really think it is worthwhile to conduct an evaluation of the plant and come up with a schedule of costs to rebuild the existing plant in place as opposed to a renovation. And what this evaluation we're going to do would involve is we will do a side-by-side comparison, and that side-by-side comparison will tell you at the end, if you go to replace the plant, this is what it's going to cost you. If you want to keep this current plant going and operating, this is the money that you have to invest in the plant, and this is what it's going to cost you. So part of these monies is to go ahead and take care of that evaluation, so going forward, we have a really good idea of what the best path is for the town relative to the wastewater treatment plant. And it also allows for funding to be able to complete some projects in 2025 so that the plant continues to get upgrades over the course of the year.
Thank you, Jim. Any questions for the wastewater treatment plant capital reserve fund?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Okay, of the 175,000, Jim, what is the engineering piece and what are the projects?
It's $75,000 for that evaluation. I can't remember, Bob, right off the top of my head what the scope of work is. I can get that for you for Thursday.
Thank you.
Okay, let's move on. Pressure relief valve and vault for the South Main Street water tower. To see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $100,000 to replace the existing globe valve with a pressure relief valve, an accessible vault to increase the fire flow on South Main Street zone. A new vault is needed so that the valve can be accessible, serviceable, and kept out of the water table and safe. This appropriation is non-lapsing pursuant to RSA 32:76 and shall lapse on December 31st, 2026, or upon the completion of the project, whichever occurs first. This project will be paid by the Water Enterprise Fund and will not have any result in any way on the tax increase. Voted by the Selectmen 5-0 to recommend.
I can't give you a lot of information on this, so I would ask our operations managers, Chris Maines, to come up and speak on this project, if you would, Chris.
Thank you.
Hello, everybody. I'm Chris Maines, Operations Manager of Water and Sewer Utilities. So essentially, this was left over from our water treatment plant upgrade. It was supposed to be replaced, our old globe valve that was in there, inoperable. We're going to put a pressure reducing valve. By engineering standards, it was going to be able to allow more fire flow from the South Main water tower to the section of South Main Street. So if we had a fire flow condition, where the fire department was tapping a fire hydrant, the actual the pressure relief valve will then open, allowing more volume to go to the fire hydrant. Right now, it's limited to what the tank can provide for pressure based upon elevation of water in the tank. So with this, we actually have the valve that's already been purchased. The town has the valve and owns it. We have to put a pit in the ground. We have pricing for a pit, have a contractor come out, install the pit, put the valve in place, get the old globe valve out of the ground because it's down in the old pit. It's just not in service as of yet. So we're there. We're just getting to the point where we have to get it installed and get a pit in there that's actually serviceable so that we can get inside the pit to actually service the valve, because this thing will need regular maintenance, be able to open and close it to exercise it.
Okay, thank you. Any questions? Okay, let's move on from the pressure relief valve and vault for South Main Street to the next warrant article. Okay, water treatment plant upgrades. To see if the town will vote to raise an appropriate sum of $100,000 to continue yearly maintenance of the water treatment plant facility. This appropriation is non-lapsing pursuant to RSA 32:76 and shall lapse on December 31st, 2026 upon completion of the project, whichever incurs first. This project will be paid by the Water Enterprise Fund and will not result in any increase in the tax rate. Recommended by the Board of Selectmen 5-0. Any comments on this one, Jim, or if anyone?
Yeah, I'd like Chris to speak to it again.
Thank you.
Yeah, so basically, we just underwent, our whole filter rehab at the water treatment plant. There's still some things that we'd like to upgrade. We'd like to be able to purchase some pumps, newer style pumps, upgrade things to get more with the times, better pumps for chemical delivery, and stuff like that, just to cover the expenses for stuff to be able to upgrade.
Okay, thank you. Any questions concerning the water treatment plant upgrades?
Procedural question.
Yes, sir.
When we have recurring upgrades like this $100,000, if we created a capital reserve for this kind of thing, would that mean it would be taxable? Whereas this with the upgrades is not, because it's coming out of the water. I just need the procedural information on that thing from the tax point of view.
Yeah, so we do actually have a water department capital reserve fund, which the Board of Selectmen do have the ability to take excess funds from the department and be able to put into that account. However, we've broken these out as standalone projects that do not impact the tax rate. It does follow our asset management plan, and it does fall in line with the recommended amount of funding to put toward capital on an annual basis.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jim. Any other questions?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, let's move on. Public Works Vehicles and Equipment Replacement Capital Reserve Fund. To see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $380,000 to be added to the existing Public Works Vehicles and Equipment Capital Reserve Fund, which as of December 31st, 2024, has a balance of $184,888. These funds are under the custody of the trustees of the trust fund, with the selectmen designated as agents to expend. Estimated tax rate, 15 cents per thousand. Recommended Board of Selectmen on a vote of 5-0.
So I'd like to have Steve Pesci come up, Director of Operations for Public Works, to speak on behalf of this. I believe they have 2 pieces of equipment scheduled for replacement as approved under the CIP program.
Okay, thank you.
Steve Pesci, Operations Manager for DPW. Looking to replace 2 trucks, HT7. It's a 6-wheel dump truck. It's about 22 years old right now. It's got about 17,000 hours on it, 164,182 miles. Motor's been replaced once. It's currently in the garage right now having more motor work done. And unfortunately, the mechanics really don't know exactly what is going on with it. Also looking to replace HD9, which is a bigger 1-ton truck. About 10 years old. Has about almost 5,000 hours on it. And has 46,000 miles on it. The bed is rotting off of it, it needs framework, and it needs to be replaced.
Okay, so you're looking for a six-wheel dump truck and a pickup truck, three-quarter ton or?
1 ton dump truck.
1 ton, okay.
Yep.
Any questions on this one for the? No. So your purchase order is 2025 out of this fund?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, let's move on then. No questions? Thank you. Abenaki Ski Area Capital Reserve Fund. To see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $32,000 to be added to the existing Abenaki Capital Reserve Fund, which as of December 31st, 2024, had a balance of $33,030. These funds under the custody of the trustees of the trust fund were selectmen designated as agents to expend. This will have a tax impact of 1 cent per thousand, recommended by the Board of Selectmen on a vote of 5-0.
So if you haven't had the opportunity, I'd really encourage you to go out to Abenaki. That place, over the past few years, we've made some significant investments out there. We've purchased a new groomer this year, new to us. We have done some snowmaking expansion with the conjunction of the Friends. We've done lighting expansion with, in conjunction with the Friends. We've done trail expansion in conjunction with the Friends. And you go out there and you look at that little ski area, and it's amazing. It's an amazing asset for our town and for the people to be able to use. This $32,000 will help to keep the replacement of items out there. They've got a replacement schedule going forward. I do anticipate the need to look at this next year based on replacement schedules and cost of equipment, and possibly have to go up a little bit on this capital reserve appropriation. But this has worked really well for us out there to keep that ski area going.
Thank you, Jim. Any questions on the Abenaki Ski Area Capital Reserve? Yes, Bobby?
Will this $32,000 be covering the future payments of the groomer? The
No,
lease?
the groomer lease is part of the operating budget. I believe it's for about $22,000 a year, 7-year time frame.
Thank you for your question, Bobby. Any other questions? Seeing none, we'll move on. Okay, tree removal and replacement of expendable trust fund funding. To see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $25,000 to be placed in the existing tree removal and replacement expendable trust fund, which as of December 31st, 2024, had a balance of $55,732. Funds are under the custody of the trustee of the trust funds with the selectmen designated as agents to expend. Tax impact 1 cent per thousand, recommended by the Board of Selectmen, a vote of 5-0.
So, as people know, we've got a tree problem in the area. In 2022, Bartlett Tree Experts came in. They did a tree inventory of South Wolfeboro for us. That tree inventory resulted in the removal of a number of diseased and unhealthy and hazardous trees. As we moved into 2024, over this past year, we've done a lot of additional work on Middleton Road and some other hazardous trees. We also committed $25,000 for tree replacement in 2024. A lot of that is along Glendon Street parking lot, Bridge Falls Path. There's a few other areas Parks and Rec has identified. Those will be planted in the spring under these existing accounts. And we plan on next year having to do more tree removal. The other thing I would note is right now we do not plan on planting any trees along the Route 28 corridor until such time that that project is done. And the report is available at the library, and it's also on our webpage from the 2022 tree inventory.
Thank you, Jim. Any questions about the Tree Removal Replacement Trust?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
And this is apart from the tree removal costs that are in the electric department's budget, correct?
Barry, can you answer that?
We have worked with Public Works evaluating these trees, but this is above and beyond our line clearing maintenance, yeah.
So this is apart from line clearing?
Yes, it is, yeah.
Thank you. Thank you.
Any other questions? Yes, Bobby.
I'm sorry, do we have a breakout for the 25 of how much will go back towards the planting of trees?
For the 25,000?
For this additional?
This year, no, not yet.
Okay.
Thank you for the question. We'll move on. Public Safety Building final upfitting costs. To see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $175,000 for the purpose of final upfitting of the Public Safety Building project and to authorize use of the amount of December 31st restricted fund balance for this purpose. The amount represents the interest earned on bond proceeds from the Public Safety Building project. Has zero effect on the tax rate. Recommended by the Board of Selectmen on a vote of 5-0.
So this particular warrant article, when we secured bond monies, we were able to put the interest received from these bond proceeds into a restricted account. So we have a handle on the interest earned on the $13.1 million, which we borrowed from the town. We originally, I sat here in front of you last year and the question was asked, do we know what these final soft costs or upfitting costs are going to be? And there was a question, do we think it's going to be $10,000? Do we think it's going to be $100,000? And I couldn't give you a good handle on what it was going to be at that point. However, as we've moved forward, I do have a very good handle on where we are at on this. We were originally, when we're going to bring this forward, we were at 198,000, and we've been able to reel that back. And what the expenses are at this point are, when we built the public safety building, one of the things that we built into it was a small fitness area, and we have fitness equipment built into this to be used by actually all town employees. We have to upfit the hose tower. I'm sorry, the gym equipment is $35,000. Upfit the hose tower with a hoist and associated equipment for $63,000. A key fob access system for the building to the tune of $27,000. And one of the things, if you go around that building, you will notice that the removal of the trees and everything has impacted the light going to neighbors. So there's $40,000 for a fence, which will run along the back of the property, and then it will run along this side entrance up to about where the carport is. And it would be a chain link 6-foot fence with the privacy slats built into it. So those items are $165,000, and we anticipate some other small items coming forward to build this building out. I would also note that one of the soft cost items that was built into this was originally a generator for about $102,000. The chief was able to secure a grant, the fire chief was able to secure a grant through Homeland Security, which paid for that generator. So that is what this costs, and it is no tax rate impact because it's using those fund balance restricted funds.
No, very good,
Questions
thank
you
you.
might have.
Yeah, questions, go ahead.
I'm questioning the language in here. I think there's something missing. It talks about the amount of December 31 restricted fund balance. There's some intention of putting the restricted fund balance amount in there so that we know what it is, or what?
This is exactly taken from the New Hampshire DRA web recommended warrant articles. So. They do not have the year added into it.
Because it's coming from 2 different years.
Okay,
Do we have a number on the restricted fund balance where it is?
Yes. In 2023, there was 113,000. In 2024, there's 159,000, for a total of 272,000, which can only be used to offset the principal or used for like costs as this is. So if we use 175,000, there'll be an additional 97 excess.
Thank you.
any other questions? Okay, let's move on. Okay, discontinue capital reserve funds. To see if the town will vote to discontinue the following. The 2001 Parks and Rec Foss Field building, the amount of $371. 2001 Town Office Facility, $207. 2002, the Wolfeboro Public Library, $20. And 2015, the Abenaki Lodge, $2,693. Said funds and accumulated interest to date of withdrawal are to be transferred in municipality's general fund undesignated fund balance. Recommended by the Board of Selectmen 5-0. Any comments about this one, Jim?
So this is just few accounts that we have that are open. Apologize when it comes up on the old computer, it doesn't format correctly. You may ask, why don't we keep the money for the Abenaki Lodge? It's because it was specific for building the lodge, so we felt that it was prudent to close that account out because it was actually to build the lodge.
Thank you. This next one, increase in income limits for elderly tax exemptions. I don't recall we've ever voted on anything like this as a budget committee.
It is a non-monetary.
Correct.
Okay, we can go past that one then.
Yep.
That would be the final one.
Okay. Okay, we still have 2 items we've got to deal with that we're going to deal with on Thursday.
So yeah, there's 2 bond hearings which are scheduled for tomorrow afternoon at 5 o'clock. One of them is the Mill Street Sewer Pump Station and the need for additional funding in the amount of $900,000. That would be a bond through the State Revolving Loan Fund, which could also leverage some loan forgiveness. Yes, this project has come in front of you. The escalation of this pump station has been very problematic. However, we are at a point now where we have construction-grade documents. We're ready to put it out to RFP, and we're hopeful that by spring, they're actually breaking ground and doing that pump station. And the other one is a betterment assessment for Chipmunk Hollow, which is Jason's Way and Christopher Court. That'll be discussed tomorrow evening as well. And that would be a betterment assessment, and there would be no tax rate impact.
So the only one that may have a tax rate impact is the Mill Street Sewer Pump Station?
And that wouldn't be for 3 years.
Okay, so I'll hold off on going to the final slide, because that may change those numbers, correct?
No, it should not change, because Mill Street, we're not going to see any costs associated with that project until the project is done. I think it's a 15-month build for the project, so we probably will not see this hit the tax rate until 2027.
Okay, this again is a slide that we saw a little bit earlier, where it's got the The tax rate operating budget, 619. You can go through it and see how much each project, each warrant article is going to cost. If they all pass, it's going to be estimated tax rate of $7.65, which is an increase of 92 cents, or 13.67%. Tax rate increase, town only, again, $300,000 home, $276, $450,000 home, $414, a $7,000 home, $644, $1 million home, $920. Again, that's if all the articles pass. Kind reminder, we're going to suspend the meeting after I go over this, and we're going to reconvene on Thursday. Let me see what date that is.
16th.
Thursday, the 16th, at 6:30 p.m. here at the Town Hall, and we're going to...
No. You're going to continue the public hearing to 7 p.m.
Till 7 p.m. Okay, I guess, excuse me. I've been advised by the secretary that we're going to reconvene or continue to this Thursday at 7 p.m. here at the Town Hall. At that time, we'll finish up any open business from tomorrow, and we'll also, as a committee, vote on all the warrant articles. You folks are more than welcome to come on Thursday.
Hey, John, I have a question.
I have no idea what the point is. Go ahead, Steve.
Casey, can you run me through, when I'm looking at the warrant articles and it says 2 cents per thousand and 6 cents, when I do the math, I come out higher than what this is. Can you just run me through the math as far as like how I take it, say it's a 4 cent per thousand increase. When I do the math, it's always more, but I'm not, there's a connection I'm not getting, in other words.
$25,000. For every $25,000 we spend, it's a penny. So 100,000 would be 4 pennies. You are going to end up with like 4.2 pennies, but we usually just round it to the nearest penny.
So for every 25,000, it's
a penny on the tax rate.
penny from the tax rate. Okay. I'm still not getting it.
Just do it 7 p.m.
It's a rounding issue. Right?
I don't know what
Basically,
he's
it's a
not getting.
round.
So 100,000, if you look at any warrant article that's up there.
Yep.
I'll try to pick one. So the fire-based ambulance was $816,000. If you divide it by $25,000, you'd get 33 cents.
Okay. But
If you took library solar, it's about...
no, I get that, but as far as the 33 cents, when I take 33 cents times, say your home is like 450,000. If I take 33 cents, or 33 cents times 450, that's a higher figure than this is. And so I'm just trying to figure out how, I get the part of 25,000 equals 1 penny, and I see how that works, but how do you get it from that column? So if they all pass, there's $7.65. How does that translate into what the tax implication is?
What that is saying is 92 cents is the increase from your prior year tax bill, just for town only. And so 92 cents on a $300,000 home per thousand is
Okay.
$276.
Okay, so that's the part that I didn't
Yeah,
get.
it's not your...
Because when you look at, if I'm just looking at the percentage increase on the warrant articles, it skews it higher than what it actually is going to be on here.
Yes, this is saying you will have an additional $276 taxes for a $300,000.
That might be a good thing for the budget committee and everybody to let the public know, because I've been on the budget committee a while, and I could never get that. So that's real good information. Thanks.
It's clear now, right?
I may have to review it with you again.
Hey, John?
Yes, sir.
John, referring back to that slide with our estimated tax rate, I believe we should consider that as being fluid, because if we are successful in getting a revaluation done this year, it will change all those numbers. The tax rate I'm assuming, since we are at 52% of our full market value, as reported to us by DRA, that our assessed value is going to go up, and that will bring the tax rate down, and it will change all these numbers. And John, I have just one more question. I didn't quite get that conversation clear about Thursday night. Are we coming here at 6:30 or not?
I'm going to clean that up right now, Bob.
What was that?
Yes, sir.
Clean it up right now.
Oh.
Yeah. Okay, now we've straightened that all out. Just as a kind reminder, on the 2025 deliberative session will be on Tuesday, February 4th, 2025 at 7 p.m. right here at the Wolfeboro Town Hall. Town meeting vote is on Tuesday, March 11th, 2025 from 8 a.m. to 7 p.m. at the Wolfeboro Town Hall. And what did you have for public comments, sir?
Doug Breskin, I have a question about a particular line item, which I don't know if you're going to have the answer for it or not, but on page 5 of the budget that was posted on the town website, there's a line for, I guess it's clerical salaries for the Chamber of Commerce, which has a total of, I guess it's $12,553 paid to the Chamber of Commerce, and I was just wondering if anybody could tell me what that is, what we're paying for.
The way I understand it, we've done it probably for the past, I don't know, 25 or 30 years, is we provide support staff down at the Chamber of Commerce to answer questions about the town and provide general information.
So it's paying for somebody to be in the Chamber of Commerce to answer questions to the public, is that right?
Yes.
Thank you.
Yeah. Is that a fair representation, Jim?
I think you hit it, John.
Thank you. Any other questions from the public?
I think that Bob just wanted to know that we'll be here at 7 o'clock on Thursday night.
Instead of 6.
Instead of 6:30.
Instead of 6:30?
No? Okay, I'm going to clear this up again. In a minute, I'm going to ask for a motion to continue the public hearing to January 16th at 7 p.m. at the Great Hall. So we'll be here at 7 p.m. on January 16th, which is this Thursday, coming up.
So moved.
Thank you. May I have a second? Second. Any further discussion? Anything more from the public? Seeing none, all in favor of continuing this public hearing to January 16th at 7 p.m., please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes. Thank you, everyone, and thank you to the public for attending tonight. Appreciate it.
So